panel discussion on mental health with Dr. Dittmar. These questions were submitted by both students and youth council members, and we'd really like to thank Dr. Dittmar for his time. So many people have been affected by mental health issues, whether personally or through family and or friends. What is your advice to individuals and families that are struggling with mental health issues?
I would start with saying that the first thing is it's so important to reach out, to get connected, to battle any kind of mental health concerns on your own is something that is oftentimes what people do, but it's really not the best way of dealing with this stuff that's going on. The more we can talk, the more we can have a safe place where people can feel connected, the better we can get through these things together. So I think that's one piece. And the other thing is just recognizing that mental health is something that affects all of us. It's not us, them thing, it's everybody. We're all part of this whole experience of life, and we all need to be able to connect together and recognize that all of us will struggle. It's kind of more like a continuum of where we are in that line. So it's just important to step back and realize it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not feel okay, and it's okay to say, hey, I want to reach out and find a community of people that can go through this struggle with me.
Thank you so much for your response and encouragement. Our next question is, what kind of resources are available for SVUSD students to turn to in regards to mental health?
That's a great question, and I have a wonderful answer to share because I worked with the school counselors in the district, and we had a wonderful meeting last year, actually, when all this stuff hit with COVID. Actually, I think it was before that. Our district, we kind of combined all of our resources at all the school district sites and made one main mental health resource site. So I would say for students and families that is like a one-stop stop for everything that you need to know, from grief to the things that could be going on that are more severe mental health issues, depression, anxiety. A variety of different resources in our community are listed there. If people are needing some professional support, there's links to get to other resources there, as well as a number of different things that are available within Ventura County in general, some online free experiences and also other community resources. So that is right off every single counseling website in the district has a link to that. It's like the second link on all of our websites. And then it's also obviously right on the district homepage. There should be a thing that says mental health.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
All right, so many parents have mentioned the difficulties they've had in trying to schedule initial appointments for their teens with mental health issues with psychiatrists and psychologists, since many providers covered under their insurance don't return calls and aren't able to provide services to youth under 18, or they say they aren't taking new patients. What are your recommendations for these families that cannot find available mental health providers?
Yeah, that's a tough situation that's happening. I think most especially during this time. I've been having conversations with a number of the providers out there. And what I could share with you is that I am aware that there are definitely, like you could say, certainly psychiatrists and psychologists and professionals out there that are overbooked right now, right? And so it's hard to get in. But there are a number of resources that are available that like I said, that are connected through that website that I shared. So you can go there, and like there's support groups that anyone can jump in on. And at least, like I said, to build a community of people that you can say, hey, I just need to talk, I need some support. That's one thing. Of course, I have to share this. I could have mentioned this before, but school counselors are your mental health professionals on all school campuses. At least, middle school on up, and we have some also in the elementary schools. And so not that we're there to serve as therapists, that's not really our role, but we do have the mental health training to support students and to help get them into the resources that they need. So hopefully that's a helpful starting place, but then we can also provide additional resources. And like I said, a number of free resources, a number of things that are virtual, but also groups that are available that students can get involved with, and other community resources that are low cost or don't, so like I know the insurance thing, like you said, is one of the issues too, but there are also low cost or no cost resources out there.
Thank you. So our next question is, what can youth do to spread awareness about mental health and help promote healthy mindsets?
I love that question. So I have to share and brag with about our wonderful program here at Simi High. So we have the wellness club that was created by our students, and you both are on that, so that's great. um, but I think students gathering together and providing, hey, here's a space, and we want to be able to talk about these things. We want to get some guest speakers to come in. We want to get involved somewhere on campus where we can provide resources and have, like I said, workshops or any kind of things that connect everybody. So I think one way is definitely within your school, get a wellness club or something like that where people are talking about mental health issues. And of course, I think a good place, like, I'm the advisor for that program, but I think a good place to start at all the schools is to maybe talk to the school counselor and say, hey, would you mind being the advisor, or even the school psychologist if they're available? Someone that has that kind of background that can really help provide resources or get people in, like we've done on our campus. So, and there's a website that you all have, or Instagram and those things, just ways for people to connect. So we've done a number of different activities and events on campus just to support mental health, like the Student Mental Health Week was last week. Earlier in the school year, we had the suicide prevention event, and people just kind of coming together and just continuing to care for their mental health needs. So hopefully that helps. The other piece is, like anything with anxiety, is going to require that that you take small steps, right? If you just avoid it, that's, I guess, the point I want to make. By just avoiding the things that we're anxious about, that causes more and more challenges, right? And so, if there's a kind of a term of a systematic desensitization, well, it's kind of like exposure, where you have to kind of eventually feel uncomfortable and then feel, okay, I'm safe. I'm not in trouble right now. I'm not in danger. And so that process of limited exposure and kind of building from there is going to be, I think, a key piece in this to help someone through their anxiety. Okay, there's no getting over it. It's going through it step by step and feeling comfortable, kind of feeling uncomfortable, but then comfortable. Okay, I got this. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, I got this. So hopefully that answers that question. I know it's pretty complex.
Thank you for those suggestions.
Sure.
Yes, something that really resonated with me was how you said, just like taking those small steps and like even pushing yourself to outside of like what you're comfortable with. I think that would be really helpful to a lot of students. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So going off your response from one of your previous questions, what role do school counselors play when it comes to mental health, and what can they do to promote good mental health among students?
So interestingly enough, I serve on the California Association of School Counselors, and there has been so much talk about how do we really promote this understanding of what school counselors are. The problem that I've seen over the years is that most parents and students think of school counselors as like, okay, I go to get my schedule done here, right? But the truth of the matter is, like I said before, we have specially trained, our programs are specialized training in mental health services. And so, in fact, we don't even talk about schedules in our graduate program. So all school counselors have a minimum of a master's degree in school counseling, which addresses the areas of academics for sure, as well as college and career. But the other main domain, the third domain, is the social emotional well-being of students. And so our role is very, very critical. I think of us as being like the first responders on school campuses. Like, we are the people that your students can come to and parents can come to for those resources. And like I said, even though we can't serve in the capacity of therapists, although some school counselors do have that background, right? I used to be a therapist. Several also have their MFT backgrounds or LPCs. They have the knowledge to do that. It's just our role, because of this is what we do. It's a combination of things. We don't serve in that capacity, but we can certainly help guide students, guide families, provide resources, and oftentimes really help de-escalate situations to a place where things can be functional. Or if we need to help get those resources out in the community, we can do that as well. I would definitely say, and not only is it just like coming to us individually, like we can also provide groups. So one of the things I think is so important is for school counselors to provide groups for students, which I've certainly done that over the years. The other piece is just providing workshops, right? We've done that, right, here at Simi. But being able to provide workshops for families and students where they can come in and learn what is depression? What does that look like in adolescence or in earlier years? Or how does anxiety really manifest at different? And what does it look like? It can be different from one person to the other. It can be different from one age to another. And just kind of getting that knowledge. And what do you do about it, right? What are some healthy coping strategies? And so we have a variety of those kind of tools. I'm going to be doing a presentation actually in a class in the psych classroom in a couple of days, talking about stress management and how that impacts our bodies, right? And what do we do about that? So counselors are really, like I said, the foot soldiers. We're right here. we can do the work every single day on campuses and provide those individual work, group work, as well as for the whole school by doing those presentations.
Thank you. Yes, I definitely agree that more people should be aware that counselors are not just someone you go to just to rearrange your school schedule. So thank you. Our next question we have is, many female students feel the dress code is too strict and feminine hygiene products are not available at school campuses. Would the Simi Valley School District reconsider their dress code for female students and provide accessible feminine hygiene products? How can schools foster a more inclusive environment for young women?
That's a good question. So my understanding is that all the school nurses office actually do have feminine products for students. As far as I'm aware, they can go there and anything that they need, they can get, and it's actually available for free. So I think that may just be like students aren't aware of that, right? And so I think that's the piece, right? What do we need to become more aware of? So if a female student is in need of anything like that, they can go to the nurse and get help right away. As far as the dress code, I don't know if I can touch that one. Those are things that I think that are worthwhile having conversations with the administration, right? We have school councils, student councils, like where they can connect and talk and say, hey, this is, times are changing and this is what we see. And that's how things can change on a campus, is by having those conversations with the administrators and kind of building up from there. Because the dress codes are things that are not just school based. I think they're throughout the district, and so it's creating those conversations and building from there.
The next question we have is, the Simi Valley Youth Council recently launched the first Simi Valley Multicultural Festival to celebrate diversity and foster inclusion. Are there plans for the school district to put funding into events and programs that foster inclusion?
I believe the answer to that would be yes. I'm understanding that there's a newer position actually within the district to really develop programs and for multicultural and diversity and to support. And so, interestingly enough, I know that the person who was just hired for that, she was a former assistant principal over at Santa Sue. And so I'm really excited because I know that she's going to bring in some wonderful ideas and ways to kind of really develop more programs within our district. And there's definitely a need, right? There's so much that has happened in our society over this past year or so that has really elevated that we need to take action. We need to understand other cultures. We need to understand what's going on in other people's lives and be respectful and understanding and develop just a sense of care and concern and empathy for all people. And so I'm excited about what she's going to do from the district level. But I think even at every school level, there's the opportunity for students to connect with the adults and to say, hey, we want to do this. Let's create an event on our campus, right? Let's build some more cultural awareness projects and festivals and opportunities there where you can bring in musicians, you can bring in speakers, you can do all kinds of really cool things to get people to just understand the diversity of culture and how beautiful that is. So hopefully that helps.
It does. Thank you. How do you feel that COVID has affected the mental health of students?
So the research is definitely showing that there's been an increase in mental health concerns as a result of COVID. While there are maybe some students have really they've found this whole online virtual thing to be wonderful and they're doing great, there's a number of other students who are really struggling. And it comes down to like that whole concept that even before this whole thing hit, it was like, how important is it to have connection? Right? I mean, it's great that we can have these virtual conversations, but it's not the same as being next to someone, right? To be able to have a hug, to be able to shed a tear together. We are, as human beings, we're social. We have that, we need that. It is a part of just our genetic makeup. And so the research is definitely showing that there's an increase in the mental health concerns, which obviously raises a lot more risks in terms of anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. And so there's definitely a need for our schools to provide more opportunities for students to have those supports, right? So you may or may not be aware, but there's been an increase in funding from the government throughout the state, throughout the federal government, to provide more mental health services for students. And so what's awesome is that I recently found out that we're going to be actually having more school counselors on campuses, which is awesome, right? And so there's going to be more of that on each one of the campuses for high school. And I think we're going to be continuing to see more of an emphasis on what can we do to support students in their mental health. So yeah, lots coming through from the state level down, really from the federal government down, which is a great thing. It's needed.
That's such great news. All right, so our final question for today is, what do you think are the pros and cons of students learning in line versus face-to-face?
Yeah, it's a complex question because, like I said, there are some students who thrive in this. They love this virtual kind of world, and I mean, there's certainly people out there that do like online degrees, right? And that can be just a modality that works for people, right? And so I think the good thing that's happened is that it has really forced all of us to become much more technologically savvy and to be more creative in how do we interact in this kind of format, right? And so there's a positive side there. And like I said, there are certainly those that are going to respond well to this. And so it opens up the doorways, I think, for teachers throughout the district to be able to continue to use this. How else can I utilize this technology in a way that's going to be really engaging students that this does function well for, right? That's that whole concept of differentiated instruction. So this is it. This has provided that kind of opportunity to learn from that. The cons, as I said, it's created so much more isolation, right? It's so different to be in a classroom like this, a virtual classroom, because students are often like this, right? They can't see you, right? Or it's a blank screen, it's just a dark screen, and that's not interacting, right? And it's easy to be just so distracted. As somebody who has taught classes, I teach college classes too. To be in a room like this or a virtual room, and it's just you have to be able to engage, right? And you're looking at people as you're kind of doing this process. But so much different when you're in the classroom. You can walk around the room. There's a feeling, a vibe of that, right? There's life to that. And so I think there's definitely so much value in being in person. Of course, that could be my bias, I suppose, because I do have that preference. But I think even from the research standpoint, since we've seen so much struggle and emotionally, particularly for students going through this time period, the in-person provides the avenue for socialization, which is such a critical part of development for adolescents. And that's the thing, is like for adolescents in particular, this is a time where they need that connection so much. Yeah, so like I said, in terms of the instruction side of things, I think the virtual has provided some good opportunities to grow, but I think the in-person is something that has so much strength to it. And that's why teachers and students are like, all right, I'm anxious to learn back in this environment. So there's so much more complexity to it than that, but hopefully that gives a little snippet of an answer for you.
Thank you for that. All right, so we're actually going to wrap up our interview. We wanted to thank you so much for your time, for your valuable responses, and for all of your insight. So thank you again for being here today.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure.